All right, welcome back to Way of the Wrench, and on this episode of How to Become a Gearhead, we're going to learn how to decode all the mumbo jumbo on the side of our tires here and learn a lot more about them. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back to Way of the Wrench on our series on how to become a gearhead. Hopefully you're enjoying the series and getting something out of it and starting to feel a little bit more like a gearhead. Now there's many different ways of starting to learn about cars, and often the best thing is just to jump in there and start wrenching. But another really popular way of starting to learn about cars is starting at the ground, right where it meets the car, and that's our tires. So let's look at what our tires do for us in our car. All right, well, what do tires do for us? Well, they do a couple things for us. First thing is we have to have some kind of traction or friction between the vehicle and the ground. If we didn't have rubber tires, the steel or aluminum rims would just spin on the ground and we'd absolutely go nowhere. So that rubber provides us some grip and traction so we can get where we need to go and stop and steer and all that stuff. Other thing that these tires do is they actually kind of are part of our suspension system. The car is floating on a cushion of air that's trapped inside of our tires, and so that takes a little bit of the jarring, smacking motion when we hit speed bumps and potholes and things like that, so we don't feel that. And then the third thing that the tires are designed for is to be able to carry the load. So not only does it have to carry the vehicle weight, but it has to carry all the passengers, and it also has to carry all of their gear in the trunk and on the roof and everything. I've grabbed a random tire from the shop and we're going to go through this one. So I thought I would start with the main basic numbers. So what you're going to do is you're going to look for kind of like a string of numbers. There's going to be probably a P or an LT and a slash and an R and a bunch of numbers like this. It should look very similar, just slightly different. Once you found this is kind of your main specifications for sizing of your tires. Now, the very first letter here, in this case it's a P, this tells you what type of vehicle this tire should be on. So P stands for passenger cars. You might also see LT, which would be light truck. You could see C if it's a commercial vehicle, and so forth. So this is your vehicle type. So the number here, the 205, right after the P and before the forward slash, this represents the width of the tire in millimeters. So in this case, this tire is 205 millimeters wide. All right, now the number after the forward slash and before the R, the 70, this is something called the aspect ratio. And what it actually is the height of the sidewall as a percentage of this width. So in this case, this 70 represents that this sidewall height is 70% of 205 millimeters. Now the next bit of information is this R. Now this R actually tells you how this tire has been constructed. So in this case, this is pretty much all of the vehicles nowadays, and the R stands for radial construction. So that means that when they are putting those bands of steel wires inside this rubber tire, when they're constructing it, those bands are laying into the tire radially, so they come from the center of the tire and go out that way. So all like that. If you had a really old car, before they used to make something called bias ply, that might be a different letter for you, but like I said, most common, 99% of what's out there is going to be R, because a lot of the tires are now radially constructed. All right, the last number is 16. This is representing what rim size this tire will fit on in inches. Now, I have no idea why the hell they decided to mix metric with inches. That seems mind-boggling, but I'm assuming it's because of an older system and trying to have metric work with the old. So this tells you that this tire would fit on a 16-inch rim. All right, the next really useful information about a tire is knowing whether it is a summer tire or an all-season tire or a winter tire. Now, on this tire, we have an M and an S, which stands for mud and snow. If it has M and S, but nothing else, this tells you that this is an all-season tire. So it's meant for an all-around, all-year tire, depending on where you live and what your winter conditions are like. Because it has S, and people think that it means mud and snow, that this is a winter tire, but that's not right. It just means that it's an all-season tire and it's good up to a certain temperature. All right, looking at another tire, you can notice that it has the M and S, so this is mud and snow, so considered all season. However, if you also have a little symbol that has a mountains and a little snowflake on it, then this is telling you that this is a winter tire. So this is rated to go below 7 degrees Celsius and in frozen conditions and not have your tire rubber turn into a hockey puck and you lose traction. So that has to be there in order for it to be a true winter tire. Now, if you have a winter tire, you're going to have some differences going on in your tread. One of the things is usually you have some deeper treads so that there's more area for the snow to go into so that the rubber can touch the street. And the other thing you're going to have is sipes. So these little squiggly lines, those are called sipes, S-I-P-E-S, and they're just more little pockets for snow and ice to go into and remove it from the surface so that the rubber can touch the ground. And they kind of act as additional surface area for the rubber to be able to touch, because these sipes tend to spread apart and grip the road a little better. And lastly, if you've looked everywhere on the sidewall of a tire and you don't see the M&S and you can't find a mountain snowflake symbol, then you've got yourself a set of summer tires. Now, summer tires are only concerned about grip and performance during the hot, warm months of the summer and dealing with rain. So they might have different kind of grooves in them to help you get rid of water from underneath the tire so you don't hydroplane. All right, this next number here, 96, refers to our load index, and it's always going to have a letter next to it that kind of goes with it, and we'll talk about it in a sec. So this 96, rather than put some useful info for the end user just to quickly look, you actually have to look this up on a chart. So 96 on a load index chart actually means that you can carry 1,565 pounds with this one tire. So to be able to figure out whether you are safely packing up your vehicle and not exceeding that, you take that load index, look on a chart, times that number by 4, and that is the maximum amount of weight that you should be putting on your tires. So that's including your vehicle, all of the people that are inside the vehicle, and all of the gear and things that you're stuffing into the trunk, etc. Right, now if you have a light truck tire or a commercial tire, you're always going to have 2 load index ratings. And what's going on here is the first one represents when you're running the tire with a single rear wheel tire, and the smaller index number is actually representing when you're running a dually setup, or 2 rear tires right next to each other on your vehicle. Some people, when they are doing extra towing, hauling campers and things like that, they want the added safety and stability when they are towing these vehicles, and a little bit more load carrying capacity, and even it out between all the tires there. But the last number is always going to be less in case you have one of those dually tires blow out, and that way you can still carry the load. All right, now right next to our load index is going to be a letter, and this letter is our speed rating. Now the speed rating, once again, is not telling us what this is so that we can just look at it and figure it out. You got to look it up on a chart, but as a rule of thumb, there is an alphabet system for rating these tires, A being the slowest and Z being the fastest. So if you have a Z-rated tire, you can go 300 kilometers an hour, and this is engineered to be safe and not come apart. So T is a little bit further up the alphabet, so it's going to be a slower rating. And for a T, that's 190 kilometers an hour that this tire is rated for. So see if you can get your 1994 Grand Prix up to 190, hey? Now these 2 pieces of information here, our load index and our speed rating, actually work together, and that's why they're next to each other. So what they're saying is this tire has been engineered to carry a certain amount of weight up to a maximum safe speed. All right, so here's more numbers and letters, and a lot of it we could pretty much just ignore, but really quickly, DOT, that stands for Department of Transportation, so you know this is a legit tire. You're not buying some no-name brand that someone homemade. You know, it's engineered to be safe. And we've got a number of numbers and letters here, and it's actually a 12-character sequence. These ones here, you don't need to concern yourself about. Essentially, all it is what manufacturer and what plant that these tires were made. But the last 4 digits are really quite important, and this is your age, when this tire was manufactured. So it's always, the first 2 is going to be the weeks in the year that it was made, and the last 2 are going to be the last 2 digits of the year. So this tire was made in 2014 in the 17th week of that year. Now, why this is important is if you're buying a set of used tires, or even new for that matter, you can quickly see how old these tires are, if they've been sitting on a shelf for 5-6 years, or if you're trying to determine whether you need to buy new tires on this vehicle that you're inspecting, and you look at this and these tires are 10 years old, then that's going to go into your decision whether you're buying the vehicle or not. All right, let's use this new information that we've learned about tires in a real-world example. So let's say that I'm looking at this vehicle and I'm thinking about buying it, but I'm concerned about maybe having to buy tires right away for it. So look for my DOT number right there. We've got our first 8 digits that tell us where this was made, etc., which we don't need to know about. But the last 4 digits, it tells us that this tire was made in the 28th week of 2008. So this is a really old tire. This is 12 years old. And to go along with that, if you look at the surface of this tire, it's got a ton of little age cracks all through here, and that's just waiting to have a blowout on a highway and, you know, cause potential damage and to you and your family when you're driving this vehicle. So they recommend that a 6-year-old tire should not be installed on a vehicle, and if it's on a vehicle and it's 10 years or older, it should be replaced right away to prevent accidents. Now, another important thing to know about tires is which way these tires were meant to go on a vehicle. So if you have this rotation, usually it's got an arrow showing you which way that this tire is designed. So in this case, the arrow is going this way. And that means that wherever this vehicle is on the vehicle, whether it's left or right, imagine that the vehicle is going forward, and does that make this tire rotate in this direction? If it does, then it's on correct. If it's pointing the opposite, then that's actually pretty dangerous, and here's why. Now, when a tire has something that says outside or inside, or it says rotation, that tells you that this tire is a directional tire. It is only designed to go one direction. So in this case, the arrow is telling us this way is the way that that tire should rotate when we're going forward with the vehicle. And here's another tell and what's going on, why they're directional. So if you look at the tread of the pattern, so where the grooves are and how they look, on a directional tire, you will always see these general kind of V shapes that start from the center and go out at an angle. And if you imagine that the wheel is turning in this direction and hitting a big water puddle, the water that would normally be trapped in between the street and the tire, instead of the car hydroplaning or sliding along with no traction, that water gets directed into these little channels, and because of the way this tire is rotating, it shoots the water out to the side through centrifugal force and clears the water from underneath the tire. So directional tires are often really good for in the rain. So if you live in a rainy place, you should try to get some directional tires. Now, sometimes a directional tire won't have a rotation or an arrow, but they also might say outside or inside. And so that is a directional tire, and they want you to put this to whatever side it's showing. So this should be visible from the outside of the car because this side says outside. All right, super big pet peeve of mine is that people that are driving vehicles every day, but they have absolutely no idea how to maintain or fix anything on their cars. When they think they have to put some pressure in their tires, they look on the sidewall and they go, oh, here it is here, max pressure 51 PSI, and then they'll pump up their tires to that. This is not what you put your tire pressure to. You have to look at a decal inside your driver's side door jamb and go to those pressures. This is just a maximum safety rating that if you were to put this on any vehicle, and if you went higher than 51 PSI, this thing would blow up on you. So, love of God, do not do that pressure. Most vehicles are around 32 PSI. Trying to tell how performance and how good quality of a tire you're buying when you're comparing brands and that, then you've got these kind of factors to look at as well. So treadwear, this is going to tell you how fast this tire is going to wear out, and the base tire wear rating is 100. So a tire wear rating of 400 tells you that this would last 4 times longer than a 100 wear tire. So higher the number, longer this tire will last. Traction, this is during a wet traction test. They want to see how far the braking distances are, and it's an alphabet scale. It can go up even to AA, but the further down the alphabet, the worse and worse traction it can get. So B and C would be a lower traction rating and a poorer quality tire compared to this one. And then temperature, this is simply how well this tire can get rid of the excess temperature at highway speeds and when you're demanding a lot from the tire. And it's the same thing, a scaled alphabet rating system where you've got A going down, and so if you've got B or C, then that tire is not as good as A tire getting rid of those temperatures at high speeds. And another thing you might find on your tire is RFT, and that stands for Runflat Technology. You're going to find these on higher end vehicles where they're trying to do some space saving and they don't want to have a spare tire on the vehicle, and more a luxury thing so that you never have to try to fix a flat tire on the side of the road. The idea behind Runflat Technology is that the sidewalls have some kind of reinforcement in the inside, or there's a ring that's inside of the tire that will help keep the shape of the tire and carry the vehicle so that you can get somewhere around 80 kilometers to a service shop so that you can get these tires switched out. So the idea is that you can run these when you have a flat tire, you have a puncture or something like that, and can safely get you to a shop so you can replace them. So now that we know about these numbers, the next logical question someone's going to ask me in the comments is, can I change these numbers for my vehicle so I can make some modifications or buy cheaper tires that are on sale, etc.? And the short answer is yes, you can. but there are some limitations. Now, in your door jamb of your vehicle is going to be a decal that tells you what your tire pressure is, and it will also tell you what the standard stock size tires are for your vehicle. And one of the big concerns with changing these numbers and values for tires and rims in your car is, does this still work and fit in your vehicle's wheel well? So, the one recommendation is you try to stick with the overall outside diameter of your tire being the same. So, let me give you an example. If I want to try to increase my rim size and get a larger rim size, that means I'm going to have a bigger diameter tire to fit that. But if I lower my aspect ratio, so hence go to some low profile, I can make that smaller, so this width now becomes thinner, and now I've made up for making the rim an inch bigger. If you're wondering what you can change these specifications to, I often just go to a website with a tire calculator built into it. You plug in your stock tire info and your rim size, and then it will literally show you on a screen where you can play with the aspect ratio, and it'll show you kind of the minimum and maximum widths of your tire that will fit your vehicle. One of the main things that happens when you start changing with the overall diameter of your tire is that your vehicle is trying to calculate your speed for your speedometer, but it's based off of a certain circumference and diameter of your tire. So if you start making the tire bigger or smaller from that, then it's going to think your vehicle is going faster or slower because it's got a different size tire than it thinks it has. All right, I find that when you're trying to learn new information and you really do want to learn it, the best way of doing that is through repetition. Now, I'm not talking about repeating flashcards until you are bored to death. That doesn't make any sense, but repetition from the point of view that you've just watched a video from me about all this info on tires. We're going to go look at a real-life example from somewhere in this parking lot. Maybe you're sitting in a dentist office waiting and reading a Road and Track article on tires, and you start having to buy new tires for someone in your family, and you start having to look at this info multiple times, and this is where that information starts to stick and make sense. So, the rest of this video, I'm going to show one more example, talk you through it, find a set of tires here that's kind of in the sun so we can see the info, and then what I was thinking is I would kind of make this interactive a bit. I will put one or two more pictures at the end of this video of a tire, and I would like you to comment below what you think that tire is, and I will reply back to you and let you know whether you're right or wrong. So here's one right here. Let's take a look. All right, here's a string of numbers and letters here. Let's start decoding this thing. So 235, that's 235 millimeters wide, so that's this width of tire here if we were to measure that, slash 45, so this is our aspect ratio, so that's saying that the height of this sidewall, if I hold my fingers there, is 45% of this overall width. And that's kind of starting to show that this is a low profile tire. For me and in my shop, anything under 55, and remember that number goes smaller, the percentage is smaller, anything under 55 for me is a low aspect low profile ratio, and we actually can't do it on our machine, so we have to upgrade our machine so we can start doing more of these low profile tires. And we got R, that's our tire construction, so this is radial, so those bands, steel bands in here are going this way radially along the tire. And then the last one is 20, so this rim right here from one side to the other in diameter is 20 inches. And let's see, here's our DOT, and then our first 8 digits we don't really care about, but these last ones, let's see if I can get the sun out of here. We got 0, 6, and 11. So this tire was manufactured in the 6th week of 2011. So 9-year-old tire. So starting to get to actually needing replaced. And we got a brand, Dunlop. That's a good brand. And right here, it is saying that this is an outside tire, so this is going to be somewhat of a directional tire, and it has to face outside for this one. And right there we've also got our M&S, so it's mud and snow all season tire, but we also have our winter snowflake, so this is a winter tire. All right, here's another tire here off another vehicle, and we've got 255, so that means the width of this tire right over here is 255 millimeters. And that's also telling us the aspect ratio, which is 45. So this sidewall length or height here is 45% of this overall width. So low profile in my books. And we got tire construction. We've got R. So that means that this is radial tire construction. The steel bands inside the rubber tire are laid radially, going out this way from the radius. And 19. So that means that this rim from one there to the other side is 19-inch diameter. So you got to have a 19-inch tire to fit that rim. And we've got our load index and our speed rating. So we've got 100 here. I have to look that up on a chart. And H is our speed rating. So what's the safest speed that we can go with these tires without them blowing up on us? We've also got a designator saying that this is outside, so there will be some sort of tread profile that makes this a directional tire, and they don't want this to be put to the inside. There's our DOT string of numbers and letters there, and the last ones are all we care about. So this one was made in the 4th week of 2018. So these are 2-year-old tires. And we've got some little symbols here and pictures, sun and rain and snowflake and things like that. But there is no snowflake inside of a mountain. All I see is the M&S, so that's an all-season tire. All right, here we got a nice set of white walls on this caddy, and I'm going to show you the numbers, and you guys can comment below without cheating and looking at other people's answers, and I will reply back to you and let you know whether you're right or not. Alright, that's a wrap on another video from Way of the Wrench and how to become a gearhead. This time on how to decode the information on the sidewall of your tires. And I would love to see your guys' comments down below. Give me your own tire size, or look at the example at the end of the video. Tell me what you think that decoding meant, and I will get back to you very quickly whether you were right or wrong and help you figure it all out. If you enjoyed the video, found it entertaining, I'd love a like and a subscribe. And if you're looking for behind the scenes, you can always look at Way of the Wrench on Instagram. And until next time, cheers.